It turns out that a bad transfer window for Celtic could have been even worse as Daizen Maeda drops the bombshell that he was ready to leave the club. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Football. The transfer window is over. There'll be no more ins and outs, and thankfully for Celtic, Maida is still one of their players, but he has revealed that he almost wasn't. He had agreed to join another club, and the only thing that stopped him, the only thing preventing him from leaving, was Brendan Rodgers telling him he couldn't go because there was nobody coming in to replace him. And that is not the news that Celtic fans will want to hear. And Daizen Maeda, he's not been good for a while, to be honest. His form's been pretty poor. The game against Rangers, the two games against Karat, the game against Aberdeen in the Cup final, he's been off form. He's certainly not hitting the heights, nowhere near the heights he hit last season. A lot of Celtic fans have come out and suggested that maybe he's no longer interested in being at the club. Maybe he doesn't want to be there, and that could be the reason behind his poor form. And it turns out that's probably true, because Daizen Maeda, while on international duty, has spoken in Japan, and he has said that he had agreed to leave Celtic. He wanted to leave Celtic, but in the end was ultimately told he couldn't buy Brendan Rodgers because there was no players coming in the opposite way to replace him. So, as we know right now, we're on an international break. Everyone's meeting up with their national teams. That means Daizen Maeda is currently in Japan, and he's spoken up with the media, and he said that there was talks for him to leave. He had a move agreed, but Celtic didn't back the move in the end because there was nobody coming in to be his replacement. Now, we have seen Celtic bring in wingers, a couple of wingers with a few days to go, and we have seen Daizen Maeda leave, but we haven't seen anybody come in as a centre forward. Now, I believe that's probably where Daizen Maeda is going to play for Celtic this season. I think the left side of the front three is going to be taken up by the new signings. Is it Tareki and Balakisha? So I believe that Maida will play through the middle, and especially with Daizen Maeda going, it just does not look like there was any chance that Daizen Maeda would be allowed to leave the club unless somebody came in. Now, any actuals came in, but what do we really know about him? The guy hasn't been good for a number of years, so I don't know if he is the man to lead the line for Celtic. I highly doubt it. But yeah, Daizen Maeda opens up on the transfer bombshell while on international duty with Japan. So the Japanese frontman dropped the major transfer bombshell when speaking to the media after touching down in North America for Japan's USA tour. He arrived at the training camp a day later than the rest of his international teammates, with the Japan FA citing club circumstances as the reason for his delay. Maida then explained that the hold-up was due to ongoing transfer negotiations on deadline day. Celtic received an official offer for the attacker and he agreed personal terms, but it was turned down as Brendan Rodgers didn't have a replacement, Maeda claims. So that is mental that we could have seen Daizen Maeda leave Celtic on transfer deadline day. Imagine the meltdown that Celtic fans would be having right now if that was the case. And honestly, I couldn't blame them. You look at the transfer window, it's shocking. I'm pretty sure that Celtic have brought in almost double the amount of money that they've spent in this window. I think their net spend is like, they've made a profit of like 13 million. I think they spent about 13 million on players, but received roughly 26. So again, they're supposed to strengthen the team, and they end up only spending half the amount of money that they've got in. So I can understand that. I do get it, and I know sometimes we say that they're ungrateful to the board and all this stuff. I do understand why Celtic fans are pissed off with the board, and I do understand why they're unhappy with this transfer window. Do I think it's a little bit extreme? Some of them, yes, I do, wanting the board out, but I do think the board have failed Celtic in this transfer window, and I think they've failed Brendan Rodgers, and for me, any chance of Brendan Rodgers staying beyond the 3 years is done now. I just do not see how Brendan Rodgers is going to commit his future to Celtic now after his 3-year deal runs out, when he knows this is the lack of support that he's going to get. Had Celtic went out this summer and had they spent money and had, they made an impact and made a statement and said to Rodgers, right, last year you did pretty good in the Champions League, we're going to back you, we want to go far, we want you to stay, we want to make a goal, we want to try and achieve something that the club's never achieved in this new era of the Champions League, we want to get to the last 16 and beyond, then maybe Rodgers would stay. But at the moment, it just looks like Celtic are saving pennies, the best players seem to be getting sold on for big profits, and there's nobody really coming in. The quality coming in isn't the same to replace them. But this is what Daizen Maeda had to say while on international duty with Japan. He said, quote, "My joining of the national team was delayed. I had been talking to Celtic until the last day, but it didn't work out. I had received an offer, and I had been telling the club that I wanted to take the next step, but Celtic hadn't been able to make any good reinforcements. So in the end, they told me they couldn't let me leave." End of quote. So pretty much Maida wanted to go. Celtic didn't have any options to replace him, and ultimately they said you can't go anywhere. So yeah, Maida looks keen then to move on with his career, but he has said that he will not let the failed exit affect his performances in Scotland this season. He said, quote, "There were some things that I had agreed to personally, so I wanted to take on the challenge. I've decided to stay with Celtic, so I want to work hard as a team." End of quote. So, yeah, he stayed with Celtic in the end, but he was pretty much told he'd no choice to. They wouldn't accept the offer. That tells me that the offer wasn't that good, because I think that Celtic probably would have sold Maida if the offer was, if it was like 25 million plus. I reckon Celtic would have took that. And I know Brendan Rodgers will have, ultimately he will have some say, but I think that if they were offered over 25 million for Daizen Maeda, I don't think he'd be there right now. So maybe the offer wasn't that great, to be fair. And then he also went on to talk more about his plans and the season that he's having. Maida said, quote, "I'd been talking to the club since before the end of the previous season. I've always told them that I wanted to take the next step, but we had league games and we lost in the Champions League qualifiers, so it was difficult." End of quote. So, yeah, just not good at all for Celtic. And again, confirmation here, you look at the money spent, 13.1 million, and the money they've had come in, 26.7. So, you know, they haven't even spent half of the amount of money that they've made on players leaving the club. Just disappointing for Celtic, and I'm sure this news will not cheer anybody up. So Daizen Maeda, yeah, he might still be at the club for now, but, you know, I would have to imagine that he will be gone. If not in January, then definitely at the end of this season. So, and it's another year that his contract going to run down, so it'll be even less money that Celtic will probably be able to get for Maida. And if you factor in his form so far, if he continues this poor form into December and then we get to the January transfer window, there's no guarantee there's going to be a big offer for Daizen Maeda, you know, at his age. And I think he's got, a year and a half left by January on his contract, and his poor form. You know, all this talk of maybe like 30 million, 40 million for Daizen Maeda. I mean, you could be looking at somewhere under 20. It could be like 15 if he keeps playing the way he's playing right now. So, yeah, Celtic could end up losing Daizen Maeda for a big fee, and not good. So we've seen Kyogo leave. Looks like Daizen Maeda wants to go, and Hatate always seems to be linked away from a move away from the club every transfer window. So, you know, that was the three standout players. You talk about the Asian players that Celtic have brought in during the Ange era, and yeah, some have been okay, but the three standouts, the three that were head and shoulders, the three players that I think you would only describe as like real quality, you know, the players that were like standout quality in terms of, you know, first team 11 quality for Celtic, I think, were Kyogo, Hatate and Maida. Kyogo's already gone, Maida wants to leave, and I wouldn't be surprised if Hatate goes as well. So it could be the end of that little Japanese connection at Celtic Park. But yeah, Daizen Maeda then dropping the bombshell. He didn't announce, or he didn't clarify or state which club it was that he agreed to go to and he wanted to join. But yeah, it's quite clear that he wants to leave Scotland. He wants to take the next step in his career. I certainly think he's good enough to. I think Daizen Maeda could play in a top league. I think Daizen Maeda could go to I think he'd be great. Honestly, I was really surprised when Ange never tried to sign him at Tottenham. Especially off the back of last season. Who's to say that Ange wouldn't have? If Ange was still at Spurs, who's to say he wouldn't have put in a bid for Maeda? But I was also surprised that Ange never tried to sign Kyogo, to be honest. So, yeah. It is what it is, but there you go. That's your transfer bombshell, guys. Daizen Maeda, he wants out, and time will tell what happens. But yeah, he is going to leave Celtic. It's just a matter of time now. I can't imagine Celtic will keep him beyond this season because he's not going to sign a new contract. If he wants to leave and he's accepting agreements and he's agreeing personal deals, it's unlikely that he's going to change his mind and sign a long-term contract. So I think that Maida will definitely leave the club now. It's just a matter, will he leave in January or will he leave in the summer? Who knows? If Celtic have a bad European campaign and if it's looking like they're going to be knocked out of the Europa League phase, then maybe Celtic will just decide to cash in. They might be like, right, well, let's just get our money back. Or let's just get some money in for Maida while we can still sell him, while he's still got a decent amount of time left on his contract. But yeah, there you go, guys. Celtic's player of the season last year, Daizen Maeda, he wants out, and it's going to happen sooner rather than later. So let's know your thoughts down below. But yeah, Maida said he'd agreed a deal, and that Brendan Rodgers essentially told him, no, you can't go because there's nobody coming in to replace you. So yeah, poor business for Celtic, and I can understand why the Celtic fans are upset. I mean, you can't blame Daizen Maeda. If he wants to leave, he wants to leave. But at the same time, I think Celtic do need to bring in a good replacement. You can't be bringing in any actual to replace Daizen Maeda. It just doesn't work that way. It's not a like-for-like swap at all. But anyway, guys, that's it. Let's know your thoughts down below. We'll catch you in the next one. Been Fog Football. Thanks for watching, and peace.